Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:06, and I'm still recovering from Patrice's paper straw rant. I'm not going to lie. I really sympathize with Mr. Onwuka at this moment.
Oh, this is
if
why
he is
loves
ever,
me.
Yeah. Oh, is that why he loves you?
Because I'm passionate about plastic straws.
I'm just saying, if he's ever the target of that kind of ire.
Oh no, I would not towards him. No.
Did you ever know? I'm jumping in here, Larry. I hope you don't mind. David Ferguson used to be head of the.
Joining us now is Andrew Langer.
David Ferguson confided to me yesterday that he keeps a box of plastic straws in the diaper bag that they carry.
Patrice has it in their bunker
there you go,
in Prince George's County. 6:35, Gordon Chang will be here. 7:05, Erica Donalds. 7:35, Kira Davis. Do you know Kira? Have you met Kira? She's fabulous.
I've met her before.
She's wonderful, one of our best friends. She's on the West Coast, so it's very hard for her to join the show.
Yes.
But she is in town. She's going to join us. A great voice for conservative moms and African-American families as well.
And she actually shows up at talk radio dinners that she gets invited to. You two slackers.
Is this really what we're going to do?
I'm sorry, Andrew.
John Eastman joins us at 8:05. And right now, for a brief shining moment, Andrew Langer.
Very brief.
Will be with us. Yeah, in fact, we're almost out of time, Andrew.
See you guys. See you guys later. Thanks for having me. Hi, guys.
It's always good to see you.
Good morning.
Welcome to CPAC. Welcome to CPAC Day 2.
Well, you hosted a dinner Wednesday night that we were unable to attend.
Yes.
I apologize,
yes.
But that's right. You're sort of a mainstay here at CPAC.
My 21st CPAC, guys.
Right.
Wow.
And my CPAC is now legal to drink. So yeah, it's crazy.
Because you certainly haven't been drinking up until this point at CPAC.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Just like most high school kids would never touch the stuff. Our audience, of course, knows your voice, Andrew, and knows you on this program. But what people don't always know about you is that you are sort of an entrenched policy nerd. Yeah. And that's why you
do know. Wait a minute. When he's in for you, we geek out together on policy all the time.
Thank you, Patrice. Oh, no. When you're not here, we actually have intelligent conversations, Larry.
I didn't put it down.
So when Patrice and I are co-hosting, it's policy stuff. When Julie and I are co-hosting, it's food, which drives Heather up the wall.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's all.
And when I'm here, we talk jazz hands and musical theater at the Kennedy Center. I kind of like that, actually.
Yes,
we all have our place.
The many facets here.
The point I was trying to make is people don't always think of CPAC as a policy hub, but it is. I mean,
I hope down the road folks are gonna think more about that aspect of it.
Well, and that brings me, because the big visual yesterday of Elon Musk with the chainsaw. Is really important, because the American people need to know that what we've wanted for decades is happening.
Right.
The E in Doge is for efficiency in our government. We know we want a government. We're not anarchists, but we want it to function for us and properly. And that's where, because once the chainsaw is done with its work, guys like you and the people that you're hosting on these panels then come in and say, okay, so let's figure out how to do this right.
And also having the discussion about the chainsaw versus the scalpel is an important discussion to have. How we go about doing this, the different approaches that are there, and what hasn't worked so far in terms of getting us the efficiencies. Trump's first term was we went a certain extent. The idea that we can actually keep regulatory costs constant over time. This is where I geek out. Mm-hmm. Regulatory costs constant over 4 years and how that changes it versus the Biden approach, where the regulatory state grows. I'm going to say 16% a year may not sound like much, but over the course of 4 years, Joe Biden nearly doubled the size and scope of the regulatory state.
Yes.
Up from $2.25 trillion to $4 trillion when he left office in annual regulatory costs.
And Patrice, as you well know too, that's not when people say, "Oh, you've grown the regulatory state." That's not just a bunch of lines on paper, because all those regulations then require a whole little office to run them.
You need to spend so much time and money as a small business owner or an individual taxpayer hiring people to figure out the
100%.
regulations to make sure that you're not
and on the other end, the government side of it, to oversee it all. So that's, you want to cut government, you cut all that paper.
Let me tease the panel that we're doing today.
Okay.
Me and Wayne Cruz from the Competitive Enterprise Institute, who coined the term regulatory dark matter. All of the things that aren't formal regulation but serve as in a regulatory capacity and add to this burden. Wayne's coming. And then a guy named Matthew Jensen, who, if you haven't had on, from the America First Policy Institute, is doing great work, really innovative work, Larry, and Patrice, on the, we could talk about the cost of regulation and what it does to small businesses, but Matthew's doing work on how these mandates blow up the federal budget. What happens when you say that the Pentagon can only buy green jet fuel or can only have EVs, or we have to have these kind of mandates here and there? How does that change the fiscal calculus for the nation? Nobody else was doing that work. I had him on. The work that I do focuses a lot on going back and looking at it right now in the light of the post-Chevron world, how we peel back the regulatory state. So that's what we're doing next. But this is a conversation I had yesterday with a group of 65 students from my very progressive high school up in New York. Every other year, they do a class on the ominously sounding rise of the right. You've all heard me.
Goodness.
Everybody's listening. You've heard me rail about my high school. But they bring the students down here, and I spent an hour and a half with them yesterday, along with our good friends Scotty Hughes at one point, Tony Katz at another point, answering their questions and having a dialogue and talking about what it means, the chainsaw versus the scalpel, but also talking about what is interesting to them and their perceptions of CPAC. And I'll tell you something, they were pleasantly surprised, which is all that I ever really want, is I want them to have this conference and our movement demystified to them. To sort of go past the demonization, and they're all having conversations and they're all having discussions about how we perceive the world. That's a good thing.
Well, I mean, listen, when we look at CPAC, I could compare CPAC today to when I first started going maybe 10 years ago, or maybe 12, 13 years ago now, and getting into this conservative world and really libertarian kind of
That's
stuff.
When you were
organizations.
with the high school group, right?
No, I'm a little older than that.
Just go with it.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. But, the face of conservatism today is so different.
Yeah.
I would say it's younger. I would say it's the demographics have changed, and it's a great opportunity for us now that we've seen so many new people coming into the conservative world. I said it right after the election of President Trump the end of last year. We have a responsibility, Andrew.
Yeah.
It's not just that we have a bunch of new Trump supporters. We have people who now are being exposed to our ideas and our principles, which a lot of them will get intrinsically, like it's things that they value. We want to make sure that they stay with us, that they don't just embrace big government. They're embracing right-sized government. They're embracing limited-sized government that actually works for the people that it needs to work for, and then get rid of all of the excess.
And to circle back to Larry's point earlier, to dovetail the two of them together, to see the impact on their daily lives of what we're doing here and to make good on promises. That was what set Donald Trump apart, his first term in his presidency, apart from any other presidency. He delivered on his promises. I never expected Donald Trump to say 2 in for every two regulations out for everyone in.
Yeah, I remember that.
What are we going to know? That's not going to. It did.
It did.
Yeah. And
forget
it had an
that.
impact.
Since George Herbert Walker Bush, Republicans have been promised that we'll start drilling at ANWR.
Right.
None of them got it done. Trump got it done in his first year. That's always the one that I hold up. It's like they've been talking about ANWR forever. He got it done.
And
hold
so,
that thought. We got a little bit. I don't know if you're familiar, but we actually have to check with traffic. Yeah, there's a clock. 6:15 WMAL traffic.
WMAL, making sense of the news.
We continue here live on Radio Row at CPAC Day 2. Patrice Onwuka drinking out of a disintegrating paper straw.
I chucked the straw. Now I just have to lose my lipstick on my mug here.
So
poor thing.
I did something yesterday for this week because I didn't think I was going to be able to bring
Andrew
in
Langer here as well, just in case people were joining us.
I didn't know if I was going to be able to bring in my metal mug because, with security.
Secret Service.
So when I went to a certain green logoed coffee company the other day, I asked them for 3 extra venti-sized cups, empty, that I could. Because by the way, I don't like doing these small sizes of
mini cups,
yes. I need my massive cup of go-go juice.
I do love that you didn't want to name the coffee company and then you used the word venti when describing the size of your cup.
You know what I'm doing here.
Yes. So listen, but we were talking about the scalpel versus chainsaw, and that's an important conversation to have. That said, how badass was it when Elon Musk had that chainsaw?
Listen, how badass was it that Javi MLA showed up a day early and brought a chainsaw
and brought the chainsaw
and gave it to him? I mean, that's really amazing. And how great it was that nobody decided to pull some kind of security trip and say, no, you can't bring a chainsaw.
You know what's funny?
Surprised,
Meredith and I were backstage a lot yesterday with a lot of the speakers and things, and we saw this giant black box being. It's like, what's this prop? Obviously, someone has this prop, but they were treating it like it was from Fort Knox. I mean, seriously, the detail
which is
around
how you
that
knew that it
chainsaw.
wasn't how you knew that it wasn't Carrot Top who'd shown up to
Yes,
get on the main stage and pull stuff out.
All right, so since we're getting a little wonky, and I can have a policy conversation, by the way.
Of course you can.
While all this is going on and all the executive orders are going on, there's also a conversation that needs to happen about how Capitol Hill follows through and actually starts legislating some of this stuff, because we know all these great things that Trump's done in his first month, it can all be undone by the next guy or gal.
Yeah.
So Congress is being Congress. They're talking about the reconciliation package. It looks like Chairman Smith of Ways and Means is right now it's leaning toward the big, beautiful bill, right?
Whereas the Senate is on a different track.
With their two bills. From your perspective, because to say it's like making sausage is actually sausage is way more elegant.
No, this is really more like butchering roadkill.
Yeah. and then serving it on a plate and saying, doesn't that look good? What are you worried about? What are you concerned about? Because all this great talk with the chainsaw can get completely screwed up on the other end of Pennsylvania.
I don't want much out of life. I want to return to regular order at some point in time. I know it's too much to ask, but to get a bunch of different bills.
I believe Johnson is earnest in trying to get there, but we are going to have this reconciliation.
But in the meantime, I think the only way we're going to be able to get it done is one bill, and I hate that because I would rather break it down into more discrete chunks.
Because one bill means things can be hidden and stuck in there, and you don't know what they are.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But also, because stuff can be hidden and stuff can be uncovered, it makes it also very easy for the bill to be undone. So I got some problems with it. I have a feeling it's going to go down the one road here. But that's just it. That's why we have to move with this speed, and I have to make the case to the American public as to why the voting public as to why this stuff is important and it needs to happen. Which, by the way, talking about this, I find it fascinating in terms of Congress and tradition. So we have a Supreme Court decision last spring which says that Congress needs to do more of its job.
Yes.
Elizabeth Warren's first reaction was to present a bill to do just the opposite, to get that power to go back to the executive branch agencies, because that's where we are that's where we were in 2024, moving into 2025. So it's crazy.
So Andrew, I mean, thinking about just kind of the policies, undoing a lot of what was done in the Biden administration, and a lot of the 11th hour, last minute, midnight stuff. For example, these slush funds that were set up so that progressive groups can get some money on the side, and that this was again another example of money that was diverted, not overseen by Congress. How can we ensure that we're finding all of this stuff, and how can we just unwind it, rescind it, and then make sure it doesn't happen again?
Well, listen, I think some of it we're seeing, some of it can't be unwound. Like, you can't unkill 100 million chickens, which keep the egg prices up there.
Yes.
But we need to be talking about that and talking about how that relates to what they're doing. One of my colleagues, Kylie McLeroy, wrote a really great piece sort of tracking how the last-minute decisions were designed to hamstring the economy so that Donald Trump couldn't bring gas prices down and egg prices down and all of those things. I think it's about uncovering that and moving forward. And then, it's one of the things. We're doing a panel tomorrow.
Okay.
Steve Moore, me, Steve Moore, and Phil Kerpen from American Commitment.
Oh, yeah, love that.
Moderated by my good buddy Jerry Rogers, who does radio in Baltimore. He's the editor of Real Clear Policy and Real Clear Health. And one of the things we're going to be talking about is this thing called the EPIC Act. So a lot of folks don't know that in the Inflation Reduction Act, $250 billion of Medicare money was diverted in order to pay for the Green New Deal. That takes Donald Trump doing. That takes Congress, Congress stepping in. So there's this EPIC Act, which I don't know. I wouldn't have said maybe you should name an act after something that's supposed to induce vomiting. I don't know, but the EPIC something needs to be done about that. So panel tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. main stage here. I'm very excited.
And are most of your panels on main stage? Or there's also breakout sessions.
No,
people can't see the breakout sessions unless they come here. Right.
That's exactly it. Well, I will
streamed.
say both of my breakout sessions that we did yesterday, one on tax and one on HHS and nutrition guidelines, both of those were filmed. We're going to get those uploaded. Patrice's colleague at IWF, Gabriella Hoffman, she's actually going to break some of it down into
awesome.
into discrete chunks. So she's going to do this. Today's panel is not a main stage panel. The regulatory panel is actually in CPAC Central down in the exhibit hall.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to tape this and make sure it gets uploaded to our website.
Fantastic. Yeah. Andrew Langer, of course, you know him, you love him. And a lot of people don't know his garage band when he was in high school was also called Discrete Chunks.
Yes, that's exactly right.
So that fits with Gabriella Hoffman's video editing style. Thank you, Andrew. You can go back to bed now.
Thank you, guys. I am.
6:23.